She is the founder and medical director of Dr. Latika Arya Skin and Aesthetic Clinic. She got a postgraduate MD training in dermatologist from Lady Hardinge Medical College, New Delhi. She is a regular speaker in dermatologist conferences and has written several articles and book chapters. She is one of the founder members and the secretary of Indian Women's Dermatological Association. That's not all. Her areas of expertise include lifestyle skin diseases, skin allergies, hair loss, as well as anti aging and cosmetic treatments. She is an expert in the treatment of hormonal skin disorders like acne, melasma, and she is a key opinion leader and trainer for many laser technologies to treat acne scars, pigmentation, hair reduction, and skin tightening. She is also a trainer for anti-aging treatments like fillers, Botox, and threads. Her latest interest is in regenerative treatments like PRP and Regenera, which is an anti-aging treatment of scars and scalp hair growth. Her approach to treatment has always been holistic. Rather than just treating the skin symptoms, she helps her patients identify the root cause of the skin problems and encouraging them to adopt holistic lifestyle changes so that they can get rid of their skin problems permanently and also lead a healthier, happier life. Her mission is to transform lives through skin. So over to you, Dr. Latikaria. We'll be glad to hear your session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mruga. So, ma'am, as we have already discussed that we will be talking about healthy skin, and your introduction mentions that skin problems are not just related to skin. So they sometimes some internal manifestations lead to skin disorders. So my first question to you would be, what do you mean by healthy skin?
See, skin is the outer cover of the body. So, healthy skin, if we have to define in very few words, we can say a skin which looks smooth, even, it looks moisturized, it looks, glowing, and without much wrinkles, without much pores being visible. And when you wash the skin, it's neither too dry, neither too oily. So, such a skin we can call as a healthy skin, which doesn't need much of coverage, which doesn't need much of the skincare. So that is called a healthy skin.
So I'm saying, what should people do to keep their skin healthy?
That is the subject of today's talk. It's a very, very long answer. And it's not like one small thing I can tell and you do that or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do
we
that.
can have plenty of time, so you can elaborate it, and we can talk about
As
various.
as you started very correctly that healthy skin comes, from a healthy body. So I'm a strong believer that skin is not just like a cover of the body. Skin is the biggest, it's the largest organ of the body. So organ means like it's a living structure. And it is actually a very good mirror of our internal health. So whatever is happening on the inside, it is just reflecting on the outside. So if we have to have a healthy skin, so it is very easily, logically you can understand. If we have a healthy body, if we have a healthy mind, then, that is the foundation of a healthy skin. So whenever, I'm seeing a patient who has come to me with various issues, it could be anything. It could be dullness, it could be open pores, or it could be, any of the features which are mentioned. So out of that, if a few features are not there, then, the patient is not satisfied. So they feel that, the skin looks dull or open pores are there, or the lines are showing, or maybe some breakouts are there, or maybe skin is very sensitive or it is red. So then I try to understand what is the internal cause which has led to all this. So of course my treatment combines the skincare routine, and I a little bit review the lifestyle, what could be the trigger in this patient, and then I just highlight it to them, and then we may require sometimes some blood tests also to know what is happening at the hormonal level or metabolic level. So once we correct all these, of course it takes time. It's not like achievable in few days. It takes few months, and slowly, after a few weeks, the patient starts seeing a gradual change in their skin. And side by side, the more important thing is that they feel healthier, they feel fitter. So that is, very satisfying to me that through their skin, I'm able to help them improve their health as well.
Okay. So what kind of lifestyle should we adopt if you want to maintain a healthy skin?
So lifestyle, basically it involves four things. So one is the diet part, and one is the exercise part, thirdly is sleep, and fourthly is the mind state. So earlier, we used to, if I'm talking about say 10 years back, So dermatologists mostly would say that, it doesn't matter whatever you eat, it's nothing going, it's not related with your skin. So many times patients used to ask that, doctor, do I have to avoid something, or something in diet that I have to not eat or eat more? So the doctors used to say that no, it's not linked. Skin is not linked with diet. Acne is not linked to chocolates. It's just a myth. So you can eat whatever sensibly. There's no problem. But now, we have realized that diet plays a very, very important role. It's like, you cannot underestimate the role of diet in a healthy skin. So we have over the years realized, allopathic doctors, the dermatologists, they have realized that diet does play a very important role. So if somebody is taking too much of dairy products or processed food, and there is more intake of sugar and desserts in the diet, or a lot of unhealthy snacky food is there, and not only that, the quality but also the quantity of the food, the timing of the food, everything matters. So that affects your metabolism, and then that's how it affects your hormones, and that's how it affects your skin. So one is the diet, and then secondly, we all have heard that exercise is also very important, because exercise helps to release the toxins from the body. It burns the extra calories, and it keeps the metabolism healthy. So earlier we again, like till I think maybe 3-4 years back, we used to say, okay, diet and exercise. Every patient of mine, we used to give this advice: follow the skincare, diet, exercise. It's now in the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years, the focus has shifted to other things as well. And out of that, the two other things which I just mentioned is sleep and mindfulness, or a positive mind state. So these two things were neglected earlier in their role for a healthy skin. So now it has been proven that a proper restful sleep, uninterrupted sleep, and in the right timings. It should be like between, a person should get good sleep between 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., because that is the time when all the repair work, all the healthy hormones, all the metabolic, you can say, checks of the body, and everything is like kind of screened, and it's like reset and it's restored. So if we are missing out on sleep in this crucial time, or if the sleep is very interrupted and it's not a restful sleep, so these repair works, they get affected, and naturally, it will then again affect the skin. And the fourth thing, which is very important, is the state of the mind. So it's like, we all know when we are stressed, so our body produces a hormone known as cortisol. So cortisol is known to affect a lot of other hormones, especially like thyroid, insulin, our adrenal glands. So all these hormones get imbalanced, and our skin needs the hormones to be balanced to function in a proper way. So if these hormones are imbalanced, then definitely again it affects the skin. So I would say that these are the main things. Now we have to focus on each and everything. They say that like sleeping is the new smoking, and mindfulness is like there's a mind body connection. So the problem sometimes originates in the mind. Stress alone can trigger skin problems. So we have seen, many times we hear that because of stress, his color was just drained, and because of stress, suddenly he grayed, or because of stress, he suddenly, started looking very pale. So this is actually medically proven now that yes, stress can affect your skin.
Right, ma'am. So this was about healthy skin, but there is one more thing. A problem which is faced by young people is that of pimples
Yes.
developing on the skin. And when the pimples go away, they leave away a scar. And as a result of that, it leads to relatively not beautiful skin. So what is the solution so that we can minimize this?
Yes, so as we know that, onset of teenage is accompanied by hormonal changes. There is activation of the reproductive organs, and they make certain hormones which activate the oil glands. So in childhood, when the oil glands are not making oil, the skin is very smooth and clear. And as soon as the oil glands become active, so the pores, they are making the oil, and in these pores, certain germs are present, certain bacteria, certain yeast, they start to overgrow, and that's why the pimples erupt. But if good skincare is followed during teenage, and the child is counseled to take good skin care of the face, like washing properly, and taking care of their scalp as well, because dandruff is very closely associated in teenage acne. And if we ask the child not to eat junk food and eat like good amount of vegetables, fruits, lot of water, and they're physically active, so then this is just a passing phase. And we also instruct the child not to scratch their pimples, because sometimes teenagers get very self-conscious, so they are scratching the pimples, and that leaves sometimes permanent scars. So fortunately, teenage acne is a transient phase of growing up. Almost every teenager at some point in their life does encounter a little bit acne. But like if you ask many adults who had acne in their in their previous in their teenage, and now they don't have any scars. So they will testify to the fact that teenage acne usually doesn't cause scarring. It is only when it is complicated by hormonal changes, or the lifestyle of the child is very, very unhealthy. He's eating a lot of junk food, or she's eating a lot of junk food, or there are sleep issues. Nowadays children sleep very late, or they are up in front of the screens. So all this leads to complication of the usual teenage acne. So then it turns towards hormonal acne. Then is the time it starts leaving scars. So we have to differentiate whether this is a normal teenage acne or whether it is being complicated by hormonal issues. So if it is just a normal teenage acne, we put the child on suitable face wash. So usually the face washes which contain salicylic acid or benzoyl peroxide. So these are antibacterial and they reduce the oil. And then we give, if according to the type of pimples, if they're bacterial in nature, then we give antibacterial creams. And if there is more of yeast predominance, then we give antifungal gels to apply. Then we also give benzoyl peroxide gels and retinoid gels. So these are very common. Everybody, must have heard about these common pimple gels. So they are, prescribed usually by the dermatologist, and it should be used under supervision, because sometimes antibiotic gels, I have seen that people, they take the prescription and then they just keep applying for a number of months or years. So just like we can get resistance from oral antibiotics, we can get resistance from topical antibiotics also. So I always recommend that when the problem has started and you have visited the dermatologist, so you've got a skincare routine, always, the doctor will tell you that, okay, use this for this much time and come back to me. Or you may ask the doctor for how long you have to use. So there is always a a time period for which for which that prescription is valid. And once your acne is controlled, and maybe it may not be 100% controlled, but because of teenage acne, we know that it will go away, just a passing phase. So we accept like occasional pimple here and there breaking out, and that pimple gets dried up very quickly. So then we just put you on a maintenance care. So maintenance is little long term, in that like you need not visit the dermatologist very often. So maybe once in 3 months or once in 6 months, just to make sure that you're on the right track. And so that skincare routine, the kid has to follow. And we also give certain home care treatments, like some masks are there, like bentonite clay masks are there, or this Indian households are very familiar with multani mitti, fuller's earth mask made in rose water. Or so these kind of things, they absorb the oil, they dry the pimples. Nowadays charcoal masks are available which absorb the excess oil. So just a very simple skincare routine we give to the child. We don't want to burden them with too many complicated things. So just a day routine and one night cream they have to apply, wash their face twice a day. And of course, we counsel them to eat healthy, eat a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables. So especially if I'm telling this to the child, the mother is feeling very happy. Okay, now like there's somebody who's telling them to eat healthy food, because aap hi bolo, ye to hamari sunte nahi hai. So I really counsel the children well that they should eat healthy, and because if they're concerned about their skin, they kind of do understand, and they do try to modify their diet and lifestyle. So that is
So
about
what
the
are the
teenage acne.
they should avoid whenever somebody is suffering from pimples? So what are the food items or the things a person should avoid?
So there is a big, there are a lot of studies being done about the association of dairy products. So dairy products are being linked with the onset of acne. So definitely, we may not stop them completely, but definitely I ask the children to maybe, once they've attained their height, to reduce the intake of milk and dairy products, not depend so much on milk, because sometimes I hear that children are taking 2 or 3 glasses of milk a day, And also they are adding maybe, supplements to them, like, you get these so-called health supplements being added to the milk. I don't want to take any names, but we all know them. So they are not nowadays recommended because they are very, very high in sugar. So, and secondly, we ask the child to avoid sugar, because sugar is another major culprit for increasing the acne severity and the duration. And of course, then fast food, junk food, lot of processed food. So these are the things like, cold drinks, colas, and lot of juices, bread, too much of pastas, too much of Maggi noodles, biscuits, all these things, we ask to avoid. And on the other hand, we encourage them to eat nutritious whole food, wholesome food, home food, like whole grains, multigrains, pulses, legumes, green vegetables, salads, fruits, nuts, seeds, eggs they can have. If they are non-vegetarian, they can include occasional chicken or lamb or occasionally. Not so everything has to be balanced and in moderation. So this is actually, through the skin, it's a good opportunity to teach the children to eat healthy, to be active, to exercise, to sleep well, and so this is, all part of the treatment. Just skincare alone will help, but then what happens is, as soon as they leave the treatment, the problem comes back because they have not changed their lifestyle or diet. So I hear like many patients, they say ki whenever we are doing the treatment, we are okay. But when we leave, it comes back. So then I sit and explain to them that yes, see, it is coming from inside. It is being stimulated by your own metabolic system, your own hormonal system. And we have to look at the cause, what are the things which are actually causing the acne. Till we don't identify them and till we don't work on them, naturally the acne is going to come back. These medicines we give are just controlling the problem. They're not curing the problem. So once the patients understand, then they get a better result and more long-lasting result.
Right. So, in addition to pimples, there is another problem which people face, and that is pigmentation developing on the skin, especially when you become an adult and there's exposure to sunlight and maybe smoking also. So, people start getting pigmentation on the skin, and it doesn't give a very comfortable feeling to them. So, why it happens and what can we do about it?
Yes, so pigmentation is a very broad term. Pigmentation can be of very different types. So either it can be just an uneven skin tone, like certain areas may be darker, like forehead or around the mouth or lips. The neck may be darker, or under eyes may be darker. Lips may be darker. So that's called uneven skin tone. And secondly, there can be pigmented patches on the skin. For example, you can see very clearly sometimes, people have these brown patches, irregular patches on the face. So that is called melasma, and that is a hormonal condition that is usually seen after middle age. And then there is another type of pigmentation which is genetic, which is in the form of freckles. So some people have like small pigmented dot-like pattern on their nose, on their cheeks. So that is also a type of pigmentation. So, but I think from your question, what you mean is more of the uneven skin tone, which is very common, which like almost like majority of the people undergo this issue at some point, especially in summer season. So when they are under the sun or when they are exposed to the outdoor environment. So for such a case, again, we prescribe a good sunscreen, because sunscreen is the backbone of any skin treatment, especially for pigmentation, because ultraviolet light of the sun, especially the ultraviolet A, is the one which is responsible for increasing the pigment formation in the skin. And this ultraviolet A is present even in the early hours of the morning. So as soon as the day breaks till the sun sets, this ultraviolet A is present. Even if it's cloudy, even if it is raining, this ultraviolet A is present. And the light which we see when the sunlight is there, that is ultraviolet B. That is more responsible for the burning effect on the skin. So that means if we have to prevent pigmentation, we need to wear sunscreen as soon as, like, it's daytime and we are going to step out. So we must put the sunscreen even if it's cloudy or sunny. And people nowadays ask that, I'm home, I'm sitting home, do I still need to put a sunscreen? So yes, even if you're home, you have to put a sunscreen, because it has been seen, the house lights, the LED lights, the the ultraviolet A is present even in the screen, the monitor, the TV lights. So all these things, they are causing pigmentation. So prolonged exposure, it's not like little bit, a few minutes of exposure will cause pigmentation, but it is the cumulative exposure over many days, over many months, over years, which is causing the pigmentation. And this eventually, this pigmentation, initially it will be just visible as pigmentation, and over the years, it will be visible as premature aging of the skin, because this is the same ultraviolet A light which also causes degradation of the collagen and leads to early aging. So that's why sunscreen, if somebody says that just tell us one thing, so I will say that first the main thing one should look after is the sunscreen. And along with the sunscreen also, we say that sunscreen is not 100% sunproof. So which means that if possible, try to also going out in the peak sunlight, that is between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So suppose you have some work or shopping work or any other work, if possible, try to postpone it till the later evening, or try not to be in the sun when you can help it. When you can't help it, of course, we don't stop you, but like if you can help it, try to avoid the peak sunlight. And maybe you can use sunshades, you can use hats or caps or a stole, something, because sunscreen is not 100% protective. That also, I want to clarify. Then of course there are treatment creams which are, which have skin lightening action. So there are certain, you might have heard of creams which have kojic acid, vitamin C, and then there are exfoliating agents like alpha hydroxy acids are there, which have, for example, glycolic acid, lactic acid, mandelic acid, salicylic acid. So these are some things which help to exfoliate. Exfoliate means like they help to remove the outer dead layer of the skin, which is carrying the excess pigment. So when the outer layer is removed, then the skin gets refreshed, and the refreshed skin has lesser pigmentation. And sometimes we add certain molecules called retinols. So retinols also help to reduce the pigmentation and exfoliate the skin. So we give a combination depending on the person's skin type. If the skin is dry, then we might avoid the glycolic acid and give more of lactic acid based product. And if so all those are like by prescription, we make the treatment plan for the patient. It's a very customized plan.
Okay. So, ma'am, there's a concept known as nutri-cosmetics, wherein the concept says that beauty lies from within, and you should start taking some supplements inside, maybe collagen, maybe hyaluronic acid, or vitamin C, or vitamin E, or niacin, or whatever. And some antioxidants such as glutathione is also very prominently used. So, what is the role of these nutri-cosmetic products? Are they useful or they are not useful?
Yes, so there is a good role of these molecules, which are, as we have mentioned, called nutri-cosmeticals. Nutri-cosmeticals means that they are providing the nutrition for a beauty point of view. So what are the molecules you have already mentioned, like glutathione nowadays is very popular. Then collagen supplements are there. Nowadays, even hyaluronic acid supplements are there. And then traditionally, we used to prescribe vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin A. They have been there since like many years, so many years. Vitamin C was very commonly prescribed as a nutricosmetical. Now the term has come, but like this was prescribed for health and skin. And nowadays there are like even oral sunscreens are there, like if you want to protect your skin from inside from the sun damage, so something known as polypodium. Then another wonderful antioxidant called astaxanthin, which is like having anti-aging property, anti-pigmentation property, anti-cancer property. So these are antioxidants. So I would say that they help when you are doing other things also. It's not enough that you just pop a nutracosmeceutical and it will do the magic. No, it will be just a part of your routine that you're doing. You're taking care of your lifestyle, you're eating well, you're taking care of your skin externally, and you're taking nutracosmeceuticals, then definitely it has a good role to play. So we do add it to our prescription, and it really helps.
As you mentioned, ma'am, that internally used sunscreens. So there have been some studies which talk about omega-3 acting as a protection from UVA rays. So what is your opinion related to that?
Yes, so omega-3 is a fat-soluble antioxidant. So it protects the cell membranes. You know, the cell membranes, they have a protein component and they have a fat component, which is called the lipid component. So the lipid is like a filler in between the protein structure. So this also gets damaged due to, you know, sunlight or due to pollution and other chemicals in our diet, in our environment. So the omega fatty acids, they help to protect the lipid part of our cells. So they act like an antioxidant and they give us protection. So it is having a good role to play. And many foods in our diet, they contain omega, like olive oil is there, salmon, fish, and you know, these cod liver fish. So they do have omega fatty acids. Otherwise, you know, supplements are available which one can take, but they should not be taken, you know, endlessly, that you are just popping them every day. So you should like give little breaks. So if you have had it for 2 3 months, then give a break of another 2 3 months, and then again you can start, or maybe you can have them 2 or 3 times a week, so that there is no overload dosage of them. Because overdosage can also lead to toxicity. So especially vitamins which are fat soluble, like vitamin E, omega, and vitamin D, they have to be taken within a prescribed limit.
Okay. So now coming to the last part of today's topic, which was that how to get a glowing skin. Sometimes people have, okay, skin is fine, there is no pigmentation also, but my skin is not glowing, it is dull or something like that. So what to do about that?
Yes, so see, you have to understand it's pure physics. So which surface will glow? Because we have seen that any surface which is smooth, that has a natural reflection to it. Light reflects off a smooth surface, and that's how the glow comes. And if the surface is uneven, or it is like not smooth, it is rough, so then light, when it falls on it, it is reflected in different directions, so the light gets refracted. So that is not going to give a reflection. So that is going to lead to a dull skin. So that means when we have to give glow to a skin, we have to make the outer layer of the skin very smooth and even. So generally for this, we use exfoliating agents. So I just mentioned in my previous discussion that there are some molecules known as alpha hydroxy acids, or also there are some things known as beta hydroxy acids. So what they basically do is they dissolve the bonds between the skin cells. So suppose this is the skin surface and it's like very uneven. So the outer layer of the cells, they are like stuck to each other as clumps. So these molecules will go, when you apply such creams, they will dissolve the bonds between these cells and they will get exfoliated. So the outer layer is removed. And then when you have a smooth layer, then that naturally gives a glow, because light bounces off the smooth skin much better. So we usually use exfoliating agents. And if somebody has got like too much of dead skin, it's not so simple because it has been present for many years. So then we sometimes need a professional exfoliation. So that is done through a treatment known as chemical peeling. So chemical peeling, it doesn't mean that we apply chemicals on the skin. We apply these exfoliating agents only, like glycolic acid or lactic acid or salicylic acid. So they are of a higher concentration, and in which like a little bit thicker outer layer of the skin is exfoliated. So the results are more appreciable and to a higher degree. So, and then of course, you know, to maintain it, we have to use a low concentration of the same agents, along with, you know, other skin hydrating agents. So another reason why the skin does not glow is lack of hydration. So one is, like I told you, the uneven texture. The second could be maybe the texture is even, but the skin lacks moisture. So you have seen that anything which, if you put water, it starts glowing, you know, any surface if you put water. So the same way, like if you have dull skin, the moment you wash your skin, it will glow. But within 5 minutes, when the water evaporates, then again it looks dull. So that means we have to apply certain substances on the skin which will maintain the moisture on the skin. So for this, like that is why, you know, we have a routine known as CTM routine. So we are doing the cleansing. So cleansing is obviously, you know, washing away the dirt and all the makeup and the oil and the bacteria. And then we do the toning. So toning to some extent removes the outer dead cells, just the cells which are already lying loose. So it just like clears the skin. So it makes it smooth. and also absorbs the excess oil. And then the third part comes the moisturizer. So moisturizer fills in the gaps in the skin wherever the lipid is lacking, or there are cracks in the skin. So the moisturizer occupies that space. It gives a sheen to the skin. It gives the moisture. It gives the hydration. So then also, the skin starts glowing. And then we may apply some antioxidant. So just we were talking about the oral antioxidants. So same way we have the topical antioxidants. Like the most famous one and the most popular one is vitamin C. So vitamin C, just like we eat orally, we also give to apply. So this is very commonly everybody knows about. There are vitamin C serums, vitamin C gels. So what is the role of vitamin C? It's a very good antioxidant. So that means that it is preventing further skin damage, and also it has skin lightening effects, and also it has a anti-aging effect. So it's like a multi action molecule that you're putting on the skin. And after that, then you can put a sunscreen. So then that means you're protecting yourself from the sunscreen. So sunscreen also, I'll just mention, since I have mentioned it 2-3 times, that it's very important to put sunscreen. So here I would like to mention that sunscreen should be broad spectrum. It should have a label against UVB, UVA, and nowadays there is something known as UVC also. So UVC we get from the blue light. So that is having a short wavelength. So that also causes skin damage. And then there are sunscreens which have infrared protection also. So infrared is the heat component. So when we get which we get, this is the radiation of the heat from maybe, the cooking area, or the heat from the devices, or the other infrared radiation around us. So all these things, they affect the skin. So nowadays sunscreens are a broad spectrum. They are protecting you from infrared, from UVC, UVB, UVA, and also visible light. So it's like a complete protection. And nowadays even sunscreens are coming out which have antioxidants added to them. So some botanical extract may be added to them, or vitamin C may be added to them. So then you may skip the step of putting an antioxidant separately. The sunscreen itself may be having the antioxidant. Then sunscreens also, they some people have very sensitive skin to the sunscreen. So those people can use a physical sunblocker. So in physical sunblock, there are no chemicals. So there are only physical agents like zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, and sometimes ferric oxide. So they are non-reactive to the skin. They don't sting, they don't burn, and they give like protection to the skin. So that is about the sunscreen. And then for the night, we ask again to wash the face, use a toner, and then again moisturize, and then use the active ingredient according to your concern. For example, if you are looking for pigmentation lightening, so your cream will contain the pigment lightening agents like kojic acid is there, niacinamide is there, arbutin, and vitamin C again can be used. And suppose like your concern is aging or aging prevention, then after the moisturizer, you can apply the retinol containing creams or hyaluronic acid containing creams. So the retinol and hyaluronic acid are very good again, for anti-aging, and plus making the skin supple. They increase the collagen of the skin. So these are the skincare routine. Generally, we advise for skin glow. I think it was a very detailed
Yeah. So it's nice that we got all these details and the audience were benefited. So now we also have plenty of questions from the audience which are popping up in the chat box. So I would request Pruga to take up the question of audience, and so that Dr. Latika can answer them.
Thank you, Dr. Vivek. Dr. Latika, that was a very clean, easy to understand session for us. And it's not just that healthy and glowing skin is something that is required only for our physical appearance, but I believe that it plays a very important role in terms of psychological. It boosts up your confidence in another level, which you may never know. It can help you to achieve a lot of things in a lot of ways. So moving on, there are a lot of questions from our audience. I'll start with, we have covered this topic, but Adarsh Pathak is asking us, how does sleep affects our skin?
Right. So, as I was mentioning earlier, that there is our body has a circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm means like it follows the pattern of the Earth's rotation and the sunset and the sunrise. So the nature has made our body in such a way that when the sun sets, then our bodies are also supposed to, go in a resting phase and in a maintenance and a growth phase. So all the healthy hormones like growth hormones, then there's something known as melatonin. So these are released and they basically it's like, when you go to a restaurant, everybody goes away and then the staff, they do the back end work. They do the cleanup, they throw the things, they see what's required, so they make the things ready for the next day. So same thing happens to our body also. So our metabolic processes, they remove all the dead cells. They just know that this is damaged area, so we have to heal it, or like for tomorrow we need to do more of this, so this body needs more of this. So that's all like a planning and like a repair, and just you it's like a back end maintenance work which goes on at night.
Okay.
So it's very important.
So during this lockdown, I think everybody's sleep cycle has been affected severely. So how do we, I mean, come back to the normal, and should we, is there any specific timing that you explained to us? 10 to 2 is the specific time that we need to go? Uh,
Yes, yes. So they say that an hour of sleep before 12 is worth 2 hours of sleep after 12. That's how effective that is. So if we understand this and we want to just take advantage of our body's own natural healing, so if we just sleep right, many things will be taken care of. So it's a very simple way. Like we keep struggling with diet and exercise and all. If we just sleep right, and our body will take care of many things, because our body is designed to naturally heal itself. So whatever the body has got the capacity that if we are sleeping on time, it will naturally treat it. But if it goes on piling up, like every day and day out, you are sleeping late. So body does not like, then it loses the potential to manage. When the problem becomes too big, then it turns into a disease, and then it does need medical help. So I would say that, first you have set the intention that yes, I want to sleep early. First of all, without intention, nothing can happen. And once you have the intention, then slowly you can, wake up little early. Suppose you wake up at 10 o'clock. So try to wake up at 8 o'clock. So if you wake up early, you will start feeling sleepier earlier at night. And the second thing which you should do is that 1 hour before your bedtime, you should switch off your, like, you should not look at your mobiles or switch off the TV. And that should be like a healthy time for the family. Like you could either read a book, or you could listen to soft music, or, you could just discuss what happened during the day. So it should be like a screen off time. So if somebody can do that, then slowly your pattern will become okay.
Right. Thank you so much. Moving on, there's one more question. Hello, doctor. Apart from natural foods, is it necessary to take multivitamins and collagen for the healthy skin?
So if your diet is balanced, then I do not recommend taking multivitamins, especially if you are young. If you're eating fruits, you're taking vegetables, and you're, taking care of the calories and everything, and then it's not a must to eat multivitamin. But yes, sometimes, one is not able to look after the diet. If you are traveling, or you were unwell, you could not eat well properly, or somebody is like little older, like about after 60, 65, the digestion becomes weak, or one is not able to eat that much, then that is the time, yes, you need a multivitamin. But otherwise, as a regular routine, one does not need a multivitamin. However, like in special situations, for a short time, you could take. So suppose, for example, from our point of view, if somebody is having hair fall, then we do prescribe some multivitamins, maybe, just to support the growth of the hair. Or sometimes, we may prescribe certain vitamins containing special minerals. Like, for example, the skin is lacking glow, so we may add vitamin A, or zinc we may add. So these kind of things. And otherwise, vitamin D, vitamin B12, these deficiencies are very common. So if somebody is tested for these and they are found to be low, then for some time these need to be taken.
Okay, so it's better to always, go for the natural foods and to have a test done before we go ahead for the.
Yes, certainly. Yes.
Okay. Moving on, ma'am, there is question on suggest something for melasma and freckles.
Melasma is a pigmentation condition which is caused by the imbalance of the hormones. So again, like if we are, so the treatment which I mentioned for glowing skin, like we have to put vitamin C in the morning and skin lightening agents at night and combine with exfoliating agents like glycolic acid. So this is a topical routine for melasma. And along with that, then, melasma is something which is ongoing. Ongoing means like, suppose somebody has diabetes. So if they are taking medicine, they are only okay till the time they are on medicine. The moment they leave, the sugar is going to become high because it's a chronic condition. So same way melasma also is a chronic condition. So you need to keep on applying your skincare routine. And if still the pigmentation is not going, then you may need some treatments because this pigmentation is sometimes very resistant. So you may need chemical peels. You may need something known as mesotherapy. Mesotherapy is like through the skin, we deliver the skin lightening substances into the skin, either through very small pricks or through electric currents. So that's called mesotherapy. And nowadays, there's a new treatment known as PRP. Like you mentioned in my introduction, that there is a regenerative treatment known as PRP or platelet-rich plasma. So platelets, they contain a lot of good, healthy growth factors which have skin stimulating properties. So in melasma, it is not just a excess pigmentation, it is also a collagen degradation. So through PRP, we try to improve the collagen and then the skin becomes balanced and the pigmentation does reduce. And otherwise, like we also sometimes look for underlying hormonal imbalance, thyroid, insulin, cholesterol. So these things should be absolutely balanced. If they are not balanced, then melasma keeps on coming back. Otherwise, the treatment is the same, like we give the skin lightening agents and sunscreen is a must. And same thing is for the freckles also. Freckles are also genetic areas in which, like, the pigment producing cells are concentrated. So they are genetically present, like in a small area, the cells, they have the tendency to make excess pigment. So that's why when you do the skin lightening with the freckles, and then there is a laser treatment also. It's a Q switched laser which can be used to remove the freckle. But then after a few months or years, the freckle can recur because again it's a genetic thing. So you do need maintenance treatment. And again, the skin lightening agents are given for that.
So, ma'am, there is one more similar question. I just clubbed two questions. What are the other factors which affect the skin pigmentation apart from food? And other question is pigmentation around lips and eyes. What can we do? Anything for oily skin?
So the other factors, for pigmentation besides diet is this B12 deficiency. It can be a pigmentation can be a sign of vitamin B12 deficiency. So you should look for that. Also, you should check the hemoglobin. Suppose iron is low, that can also give a little bit pigmentation on the skin or a pale kind of skin. Then we have to check the metabolism, for example, thyroid, hypothyroidism. Then there's a hormone known as insulin that is produced by the pancreas. So we have to look for insulin resistance. So insulin resistance, in my experience, is a very, very common reason for pigmentation under the eyes, around the mouth, on the lips, neck pigmentation, underarm pigmentation, body pigmentation. Sometimes, it can lead to pigmentation on the knuckles also. So when we reduce the insulin, then with medication and with lifestyle, then the pigmentation starts to reduce. So we have to look for all these factors.
For all these factors. Okay. Okay. Is there any good moisturizer for children for face as well as for the body? That's the next question.
Yes, so for children, if suppose they have normal skin, then the usual, over-the-counter baby moisturizers can be used. But suppose they have a sensitive skin, some children, they have very dry skin. They are born with dry skin, or like after 1 or 2 years of age, the skin may turn dry. So that is called atopic dermatitis. So such children become sensitive to dust and smoke and carpet dust, so they start developing rashes. So in such children we give moisturizers which contain oatmeal, or it may contain oils like sunflower oil, olive oil, or it may contain ceramides, or it may contain the combination of all these things. So ceramides, these oils with omega component, omega 3 oils like sunflower oil and olive oil, and also oatmeal, oat extract, because oat extract has got a skin hydrating and a skin moisturizing property.
Ma'am, this is a very common question. I think almost every female might be having this issue. How important is an under eye cream for our skincare routine? And is there any specific right time to use it?
So just like we take care of our face, so likewise we need to take care of the skin around the eyes. So the skin around the eyes is more delicate than the skin of the face. So it is, one third the thickness of the skin on the face. So that means the products that we use here have to be very, very mild and very gentle. Because if we use stronger products on the under eye area, our skin can react to it. It can become irritated or dry. So usually, when you start taking care of the skin for age prevention, so example, like, in your 20s or 30s, so that is the time to use eye cream, which is more of a preventive nature, like vitamin C is a very good under eye cream. Under eye creams which have vitamin C or which have peptides, so they just moisturize and they just protect. They have antioxidant. They protect the under eye area from developing wrinkles and pigmentation. But if somebody has got dark circles, then they need to use under eye creams which have skin lightening agents. For example, kojic acid or arbutin or this niacinamide. So these things, they help to lighten the pigmentation. And if somebody is noticing fine lines and wrinkles or puffiness or eye bags, so then they need to use creams which contain retinol. So retinol improves the collagen content in the skin, and when the collagen content is increased, then definitely the fine lines, they reduce, and the eye bags may reduce. But of course, like eye creams are not going to improve the under eye area 100%. So they will improve to some degree. Like all of you might have tried some eye cream, and then you might have realized that it works to some extent, but it's not like a magic cream that it will just erase all my problems. So for under eye area, so prevention is best, and plus then you can use these type of creams. And if still the problem is bothering you, then you need to consult your dermatologist, because there are lots of nice treatments for under eye areas which are very effective.
Okay, okay. How important are night creams? So,
Night creams, again, depending on the concern. So at the very least, if you don't have any other skincare routine, so at least, a moisturizer is the minimum. But if you want some benefits out of your night routine, then you can add the most important ingredient which is required for your skin to be applied at night. So night cream is not like a general night cream which anybody can use. So night cream means like what is required for you, because nighttime the product has a very good time and opportunity to act on your skin. It is like just being absorbed, and it can work well. There's no sun, there's no rubbing, there's no sweat, so it works well. So the popular and the night creams are which contain, suppose somebody wants all in one, sometimes you don't have a concern, you just want to keep your skin glowing and even, so you can use a night cream which has a blend of, say, it may have vitamin C, it may have a peptide, it may have antioxidant, it may have a little retinol, hyaluronic acid. So all the ingredients which are beneficial for skin, they may be added to the cream. So nowadays, a lot of these creams are available. So I think, yes, one should use a night cream.
okay, okay. So, is there any difference in applying these the vitamins that you have mentioned, or taking them in the form of supplement, or should we follow both the regimen, that is taking the supplement and also applying the cream?
Yes, yes, both the things are required, because supplements, they don't reach the skin in that much concentration. So skin, like you are popping it internally, so it's going into your blood, into your digestive system. It is reaching the tissues inside, and skin is the outermost layer. So by the time it reaches the skin, it's a very less concentration that is reaching the skin. So you also have to apply the things externally. So if you're doing both, external application as well as internal intake, then definitely you get a better result. Suppose
Okay,
vitamin C, you are eating also and you're applying also, then it's better.
okay, okay, okay. Moving on, ma'am. Is there any treatment for blackheads, and what type of skin faces the issue of blackhead?
Blackheads are usually seen, in people whose skin is very oily, and the pores, they get blocked. So they turn into blackheads. Sometimes they are seen on just on the T-zone, for example, on the forehead and the nose area and chin area. Or sometimes they can be seen, on the cheeks also. And so we have to find out what is the kind of setting in which they are appearing. Is it a teenage person? Is it an adult person? Or sometimes blackheads. There is a special kind of blackheads which appear in older people. That is due to sun damage. Like if they have not used sunscreen, so very commonly you find that around the eyes they start developing blackheads. So that is due to aging. So blackheads just mean that in the pore of the skin there is some dead material which is collected. So we treat it by, if the blackheads are not too many, we may just give a cream which has salicylic acid or, which has a retinoid. So these two products are generally used. So either we may give salicylic acid as a face wash. That helps to absorb the oil, that helps to loosen out the dirt and the impacted material in the pore. So twice a day, one can use a salicylic acid face wash, and at night, we prescribe a retinoid. So retinoids or retinols are always given for the night time because they are, sun sensitive. They break down under the sun, and also they make the skin more sensitive to the sun. So that's why it's always preferred at night. So either on the whole face or just on the, the affected zones, this retinoid creams can be put. So with gradual application, the blackheads reduce. And sometimes if they are very resistant or there are too many, then they can be extracted also. So there are special instruments for blackhead extraction, so that can be done. And peels are there, salicylic acid peels, again, they help in prevention also because sometimes they do come back. And also make sure that people who have blackhead, they should make sure that they are not putting any sort of oily creams on the face. Sometimes, person mistakenly feels that my skin is dry, let me put something, lots of people, they put oil on the face like coconut oil, or they may put olive oil, they feel almond oil. So, or some, facial oils are there. Nowadays, they are, in on the internet, like a lot of people, they give very high claims that put this oil, it is magical and all that. So people put this oil and then they start developing blackheads because oil further blocks the pores. It further prevents the cells from exfoliating. So all the cells, they just get collected in the oil makes the cells sticky and they just fill up the pores and they block the pores. So make sure that if you are having blackheads, is it because you're putting some oily creams or is it because you're putting some oil on the face? So don't do that and just use this salicylic acid face wash and maybe retinoids. So that will help you.
Okay, okay. Ma'am, usually there was a period of time when aloe vera was, I think there were a lot of ads also where, aloe vera was there in the soap, probably in the body wash or in the cream or the face wash. So how aloe vera is effective for the skin? And are there any particular right type of face wash depending on the skin type?
So aloe vera is I think it's a wonderful molecule. Nowadays, lot of even allopathic skin creams, they have aloe vera in it because aloe vera has multiple benefits. It is having this moisturizing property. Then it is anti-inflammatory. Anti-inflammatory means like if there's any skin irritation, it helps to soothe it. And then it has little bit antibacterial, antiseptic activity. So aloe vera is a good skin hydrating and a skin soothing agent. So it is added to a lot of products nowadays, and one can use plain aloe vera gels. A lot of companies are making over the counter. And then if you have an aloe vera plant, then you can just cut the plant, cut the leaf, and you can take the fresh aloe vera juice, and that can be applied. So that helps to even soothe minor burns or like sunburns or any skin irritation. So that helps. So aloe vera is a good product. So I do support that. And what was your second question you were asking? Which kind of face wash for which
Yes.
kind of?
So do we have to select a right face wash according to our skin type?
Oh yes, that is very important because not only according to skin type but also according to the climate. Like in summer, maybe we have to change to a different face wash. In winters, we may have to use it because we have all seen that according to the climate, our skin also changes. So the face wash can be gentle to very, very strong. So on one hand, the gentle face washes are one which are soap free. They don't have any soap. So they are very gentle and they just, because of their emulsification, they just mop up all the oil and the dust and the bacteria. And then we have intermediate face washes, which are neither too oily neither too drying. So they are just balanced. So most of the people, they need to use this kind of a face wash, which is like a good cleanser, but it is gentle. Why? Because we don't want to remove excess oil also from the skin. Because if you remove excess oil from the skin and skin becomes over dry, then that is also not good for the skin, because then the oil glands become irritated, they produce even more oil. So you have to use a gentle face wash. Such face washes, generally it is written on the surface, on the label, that it is for normal skin, it is gentle face wash, it's a gentle cleanser. So, and it has a very light foaming action. And when you use it, then your skin feels, normal. It doesn't feel too oily also, like no oil has been removed, or it doesn't feel too stretched also. So that's a good sign, that means this is suiting your skin. But then there are some people who have very oily skin, like acne prone skin, teenagers, or people who have pimples. So they need to use little bit stronger face washes. So by stronger, I mean they have agents which remove the oil from the skin, because their skin is excessively oily. So such face washes, they may have salicylic acid, or even there are face washes which contain benzoyl peroxide. So benzoyl peroxide face washes are good for people who have active pimples, like red pimples, pus-filled pimples. So for them, benzoyl peroxide face washes are good.
Okay. So these ingredients we can always mention, we can always understand where they are by reading the label, I guess.
Yes, yes, by reading the label.
Okay, okay. There is one more question, ma'am. How important is to include protein in our diet? Does it have any effect on a healthy skin or glowing skin?
So protein is a very important part of the diet, but it is not like you only need protein, you need fat also, you need carbs also. So you need to eat a well balanced diet. And again, your protein intake depends on your age, depends on your health. So growing children definitely need more protein, and older people, again, they need more protein. And otherwise, if you are working out, then you may need more protein. And so protein sources, vegetarian sources are like pulses, legumes, mushrooms, and even sprouts are a very good source of protein. And soya bean is an excellent source. And then, of course, in non-vegetarians, they can eat eggs, chicken, fish, and red meat occasionally, not too much of that. So protein, I would say, one should not obsess about it, that the western concept that one has to eat 2 grams per kg of protein. That is, I don't agree with that. Some people think like that, but I don't agree with that. I think it should be like a say, maybe if your diet is out of 100%, if you want to quantify the protein, so carbs can be around 40%, 30 to 40%, and then 30-40% can be protein, and rest can be vegetables and fruits, and 5-10% can be the oil. So that's how you can quantify your diet.
Okay. So mainly the quantity, the quality of the protein matters a
Yeah.
lot.
Yes, yes. And here I would like to mention, maybe some viewers may not agree with me, but I'm not a big fan of the artificial protein supplements. So I've seen a lot of people, when they start taking this, they start developing skin problems. They may either develop this thing, acne, or they may, like, normal people, they never had acne, skin was fine. They started taking protein and they started developing acne, and or they started developing hair loss or dandruff. So these things, are seen in some people. So it should be just taken with caution. Don't just take them blindly. So just my word of caution regarding the protein supplements which you get.
Okay. Moving on, ma'am, how spirulina is helpful in maintaining healthy skin and metabolism? Do you recommend your patients melatonin and in home? Okay, so these are two different questions. Uh,
So spirulina is again an antioxidant. So like we have talked about the antioxidants, so likewise spirulina is also one of the antioxidants. It's derived from the seaweeds. So it is good to take. It is like, by maybe by rotation, you can keep switching your antioxidants. So for some time you may take spirulina, then some people like to take this wheatgrass, or there's like something known as like I mentioned, astaxanthin is there, then coenzyme Q10 is there, polypodium is there. So all of these are good antioxidants. Then other antioxidants from skin point of view is glutathione, resveratrol. So you get a lot of supplements. So maybe all are good. It depends, which one you get easily, which one you like to have, which one makes you feel better. Of course, I do agree. If you want to take spirulina, it's good.
Okay. And anything, ma'am, about melatonin? Do you recommend that supplement to your
So
patient?
melatonin, if somebody is not able to sleep well at night, so then we may prescribe melatonin to help them sleep better. Because like normally the body makes its own melatonin when you're sleeping, but people who are not sleeping early, they're sleeping very late, and because of that, if they're having some skin issues, then if we find that the skin issue is related to their sleep, and they're feeling stressed and not able to sleep, and the skin is getting affected or health is getting affected, then for a few months melatonin can be prescribed, and gradually we motivate them to uh, reset their sleep cycle, and then melatonin body can make on its own.
Okay. Okay. There are two questions, but I think we have covered them. One is any cream for dark circles. I think we have covered under eyes cream. And another one is suggest anything for open pores.
So I was just thinking that nobody has asked this question because open pores is a very, very common concern. So open pores means that basically from the pore the oil comes out, right? The pore is a opening from which your oil under the skin which is made that comes out. So if the pore is big, that signifies that the oil gland is bigger in size and it is making excess oil. That is why the pore is big. And the second reason the pore is big in size can be due to aging. So as you imagine, like the pore is like a tunnel through which the oil is coming out, and around that the skin collagen is supporting it. So with aging, the collagen becomes loose. So the support of the pore is not there, or it's loose. So the pore, just dilates. It just opens. So we have to see what is the situation in a particular patient, whether it's due to over oiliness. Then we work on reducing the excessive oiliness. So we ask them to use salicylic acid face wash, use a toner, use alpha hydroxy acids at night, use retinoids at night, and during the day, they can gently mop the oil. So we don't say that you keep washing the face every few hours. So that actually increases the oil. So you should wash it 2 or 3 times a day only. And other times, if the face becomes oily and the pores are looking visible, you can just blot it with a tissue gently. And then the moisturizers can be given in such a patient for daytime, which are matte moisturizers. Some moisturizers, they have a property of absorbing the oil. So they are called matte moisturizer. They make the pores look less visible. So they can be applied during the day. And for people whose pores are open because of aging and the loosening of the collagen, then we need to give them creams which help to stimulate new collagen. So such creams are the ones which contain retinol, and maybe antioxidants and peptides may be added in such a routine. And but mostly we see that in such a patient, the creams don't help that much. They need to go in for certain collagen stimulating treatments like PRP or microneedling, chemical peels. So any treatment which stimulates collagen can slowly help to reduce the pores.
Okay. Ma'am, we'll be taking this last question now. Is it possible to remove pimple scars through laser treatment or laser toning?
So pimple scars, if they are just blemishes, like there is no dip in the skin, there is no pit in the skin, just there are like flat blemishes. So they can be lightened with the help of chemical peels and with the help of Q switch laser. There's a laser known as Q switch laser. For example, there's a laser called Helios laser. So that helps to fade the marks gradually over 5 to 6 sessions. So once a month, these sessions are done. And of course, there are some home care creams also. Along with that, we prescribe that. And then there are scars which are like pits in the skin. So that means the collagen over there has got damaged. Like when the pimple was there, it caused so much inflammation that the collagen of that zone got damaged. And after healing, it has left a pit. So these kind of scars, the creams are not able to help. So for these scars, laser is the answer. So these lasers are popularly known as fractional lasers. So they help to stimulate new collagen. And sometimes, the scars are not too deep, they are very minimal. So then there is a lighter treatment known as derma roller or micro needling. So which is also like it's stimulating collagen, but it's not very strong like the laser. So it depends on what is the intensity of scarring, what is the degree of scarring, and based on that we suggest the treatment to the patient. So usually 4 to 6 sessions are done, and it helps to reduce the scars to a greater extent.
Okay. There is just last question I think connected to this. Do jade rollers or derma rollers help? I think for the pimple scar.
There are two different things. Derma rollers are rollers which have very fine micro needles attached to them. So they are, when they are rolled on the skin, they are actually pricking the skin. So that prick of the skin helps to stimulate the collagen. And along with the derma roller, either just plain derma roller is done, but more commonly, serum is applied and then derma roller is done. So this is usually done in the clinics. It's a treatment done in the clinics, but yes, sometimes there are some patient derma rollers also available which have very uh, much smaller needles than in a clinic, which are safer for home use. So they can be used. So after you've applied your favorite product, then after that you can do some derma rolling. And through the pricks created, there is a better absorption of the product into the skin. And the pricks itself, they increase the collagen. So they have a good anti-aging benefit, and also they're good for the pores and fine lines also. And jade rollers are basically, they are more of a wellness kind of treatment. They are not a dermatological treatment. They are supposed to help in the lymph drainage of the face. So people who have like puffiness, or they have, when they wake up, they feel very bloated, or they have a puffy eyes, or generally like the skin feels sensitive. So these jade rollers can be used as a particular way to do them. I'm not the specialist of that, but there are like so many people you see on the net using them. So they are used in particular meridians, so it is believed that the lymph flows in a particular direction, and theoretically they are thought to help with the lymph drainage. And but I don't think they will cause an anti-aging benefit, but yes, a wellness sensation they will give you.
Okay, but these you have to do it with the along with the expert guidance only. What?
Yeah, jade roller is something which you don't need much expert guidance. Jade roller is like a very simple thing. But derma roller, yes, you should first, just check with the dermatologist, because how the skin should be, like the skin should be stretched, and it should be like what serum to be used along with that. And
Okay, okay.
yeah.
So, ma'am, we are getting a lot of appreciation for our session. Thank you so much. I would like to end the Q&A over here. If you have any doubt, let us know. Please do send us emails, or we can always connect later. I'll just request Dr. Vivek to take it over from here.
Ma'am, it was a really wonderful session. It was quite enlightening for everyone, including the audience. At least for me, I think Muga would also have known
Yes.
a few new things.
I asked
So,
my own few questions also. I took an advantage of it.
Okay, you're most welcome.
Ma'am, really, I would like to thank you on behalf of GNC and on the behalf of audience. And I would also like to thank the audience who have participated and asked some questions. And I think they were pretty much interested. But this is the longest session we have conducted till date, and people have kept on asking questions. In fact, we couldn't be asked. Take few questions, so we may take them offline. So, ma'am, thank you very much once again, and hope to see you again with another topic related to health only, and hope the audience continue benefiting from your experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vivek. Thank you, Muruga. And thank you, GNC. And thank you, all the participants, for joining us. And it was my pleasure to share whatever knowledge I could share with my viewers. And you can contact me, and you can contact GNC for any questions which we may not be able to have been able to answer. Thank you, and a very good evening. Bye bye.